Hey, I think we're live. What is going on? Let's give it a few minutes. As y'all get gathered in, drop me a comment. Hit that thumbs up. Let's get a bunch of folks in here tonight. We're going to talk about the best baits to fish with for this week for me. My opinion. I'm no expert, but I'll do my best. It's a hard time of year to pick 5 baits, I can tell you that. This time of year, there's so many different ways to catch them. I'm about to sneeze. Whoo, boy, here we go. Springtime. Springtime, folks at home. Them allergies ain't no punk. Anyways, it's a very hard time of year in May to knock it down to 5 baits. There's so many different things we can do. So, literally the other day, I caught a big old, like yesterday, I caught a really big fish in like 25 foot of water, and like 30 minutes later, I caught one off a bed. Like, that's what time of year it is. Like, you can kind of do anything you want to do a little bit. So it makes it really hard to only pick 5 baits and stick to it. But we'll do our best. Looks like we got quite a few of you guys here, getting a lot of comments. I appreciate that. Let's say hi to some folks. John Denny, Bryant White, Barrett Benefield, Justin Ives, Bigfoot, J-Bo, Colton Dock, Mike Perez, Bobby Eisenhood, Seabach, Jordan Spalding, Sean Allen, Andrew, Brennan, Casey, Gaby, Todd Udi, Gary Payne. Awesome, man. Appreciate all you guys joining us tonight. We got more and more coming in as we go. I won't get to everybody. I apologize for those that I didn't. Let's talk about some baits. So first thing to do in the morning is go look for a little shad spawn. That threadfin shad spawn is going on right now. And if you can land on the right point, and the best thing to do, honestly, is to look for windblown points and banks and look for herons, okay? And when you can find that, you can get right in a hurry. First thing right off the bat, if you can find that scenario. The bait I'm going to pick tonight for the shad spawn is going to be the weedless swim bait, the Divine Series swim bait. Been catching a lot of fish on this bait right here. Owner, Flashy Swimmer. I like the 5-aught hook on the big Divine swim bait, which is like a 4.4 size. Still a small swim bait. That bait, I'm picking that one just because it's the most versatile. You can throw that and get bit on any type of cover, whether it's a bare clay bank, a bare clay point, if you got timber, if you've got grass, if you're fishing a grass edge shad spawn deal, no matter where you are, no matter what shad spawn situation you find yourself in, that little weedless swim bait will get bit on all of it. So that's why I'm picking that. Now understand, I could tell you to throw a chatterbait, I could tell you to throw a square bill, I could tell you to throw a popping topwater bait, I could tell you to throw a walking topwater bait, I can tell you to throw a buzz bait, a whopper plopper, like so many different things you can throw on that shad spawn and get bit. But that's just the most versatile one and the easiest one to throw. And it's one that's been effective for us lately. So that's why I'm telling you that. Now, once the shad spawn deal ends, we kind of got 2 directions to go. So I'm going to give you a couple baits for each. One thing that you can do that is very effective right now is there's a good brim spawn going on all across the lake. So if you want to go looking for brim beds and then fish out in front of them, like pretty much if we find a significant size brim bed, we're catching multiple fish, getting multiple bites in front of each of them as of the end of this week. So if I'm going down a bank or whatever and I see a brim bed, I'll circle around, back off, and just fish out in front of that and usually pick up at least 2 to 3 bites on each brim bed. And a lot of times there's some really quality fish that we're catching off the brim bed situation. So one of the baits that's just super easy to use around that, and it's been the most effective, is just a little Texas rig. And I'm going to show you what we're throwing. Our best bait for that has been a stroker crawl. Just a little compact Texas rig creature bait. My best color has been grass candy. There's something on Lake Fork about, watermelon candy, which is basically what this is. It's called grass candy. Got purple flake on one side, green flake on the other. If you're throwing different brands of creature baits, you can just throw a watermelon candy. Like if you're throwing a Zoom brand, I think they're watermelon candy. Most brands, the watermelon candy is going to be green with purple and green flake. I guess that must imitate our brim here pretty good, because every year this time of year that watermelon candy seems to be the best color. But man, I'm just fishing that on a Texas rig, like a 1/4 ounce Texas rig, out in front of those brim beds, and that's the most effective bait to get those bites. Now another bait that is effective out in front of brim beds and just kind of shallow fishing in general right now, really effective this time of year, is the Wacky Worm. We're wacky rigging the Divine 6.3 inch Divine shaky head worm. And we're putting a 1/2 nail weight in the head. Same deal. Watermelon candy is the best color. This is my second best color. That's green pumpkin burst. Those 2 colors and watermelon red. I got to mention watermelon red. All 3 of those colors have really been effective lately. So those are a couple shallow baits. I mean, you get a Texas rig and a Wacky Worm, you can absolutely get bit. Understand, again, I can tell you throw a frog, a swim jig, like, it's definitely a good time of year to go throw a frog all day. You could go punch matted vegetation right now. Like, there's a lot of different ways to get bit. All right, let's talk about out deep. If you want to go offshore, go use your electronics. There is some fish finally starting to get in some good sized schools. Finally starting to see some good sized schools of fish out offshore. And I'm talking about deeper water now, guys. Some of these fish are as deep as 25, 30 feet. A lot of them are in 15 to 20. A lot of them are in 20 to 25. Some of them are a little deeper than that. But one thing about it right now, you got to graph the whole structure because there's no thermocline. Those fish are fresh out there, and there's really no telling where exactly they'll be on that structure. So you got to graph the whole thing to find them. Whew, excuse me, sorry about that. And my favorite bait early on in the year when I get offshore is a big jig. Big 3/4 ounce hybrid jig. Man, I'm fighting them sneezes off. Good night. Again, my apologies. This is the crawfish drone color. I love this color out deep. It's just a green and brown. Speckled crawl is another color that I like to throw on my jigs. And if you'll notice, I kind of leave these big offshore jigs. I leave everything kind of full. The skirt's kind of full. The bait, I don't trim the bait at all. Everything's a little bit longer than my normal jig. Say if I was flipping up shallow, you can see how much more compact this other jig is. And I would trim the trailer accordingly on that shorter jig. But we're just throwing this bait out there and just dragging it. We're not stroking it yet. All we're doing is dragging it real slow. I've got 2 different baits that I'm throwing out deep primarily. Now, granted, I'm throwing a lot of different baits out deep. My 2 most effective baits are one that I go real slow with, which is the big jig. And then the one that's more fun, to be honest with you, it's more fun, is the big, deep plug, big crankbait. Some of y'all may have saw on social media that humongous fish that I caught on this big crankbait right here yesterday. Citrus Shad's my favorite color for deep cranking. Now, Citrus Shad's out of stock right now on the 6th Sense website. But, man, I'll be honest with you, on deep crankbaits, color is not really a big deal. Chartreuse blueback's a great color. That lavender citrus is a great color. I can't think of some of the other. Any of the white shad patterns are good. Like, color's not just a huge ordeal on deep cranking. But throwing this big plug down there, man, it's such a big deal. Because that bait gets down there and it bangs around and it bounces off all these hard surfaces on these long main lake points and stuff like that. And when it bounces off that stuff, it really causes a reaction bite from the bigger fish. As you guys saw, that fish I caught yesterday was freaking huge, man. And that's the kind of fish that bite that big crankbait. Don't get me wrong, that big jig will catch a big fish too, obviously. I mean, that big jig's notorious for that. But it seems like the vast majority of the bites you get on that really big crankbait, especially when you're banging it on the bottom like you're supposed to be. That's the whole key, is on making sure this bait is banging the bottom within that school of fish. Keeping it in that school, contacting the bottom, getting reaction bites from the biggest fish in the school. All right, there's 5 baits right there. 3 different ways to do it. We got a shad spawn, we got a brim spawn, and we got deep offshore fish. Oh yeah, and if you want to go sight fishing, you can still do that. Like, there's a lot of things going on the lake right now. All right, let's see. Let's find some questions. What rod am I throwing the jig on? The big jig I'm throwing on a 7.7 heavy Century series. This is the Century series from 6th Sense right here. That's a 7.7 heavy that I'm throwing that on. That to me is the greatest jig rod I've ever owned. Oh, by the way, Carolina rigs work really well right now too, offshore. Now, I saw somebody ask earlier, what are the best baits to throw on a Carolina rig? You know, a baby brush hog is a great Carolina rig bait. Impact Shad, which is a fluke style bait, a jointed fluke style bait, that Impact Shad, mark pack as in M-PACK. Impact Shad, that's a great Carolina rig bait to throw right now. Also, we're getting to that time of year, it starts getting hotter. That bubble fry from Smash Tech comes into play on that Carolina rig, and it seems to get better and better the hotter the water gets. So that's 3 baits I really like throwing on a Carolina rig. And I'll tell you another bait that you can throw out deep is big perm on the big 6 cent shaky head. That's another very effective bait offshore right now. What rod am I throwing that crankbait on? Captain Ron, which I think I saw he's in here tonight. He may have already bailed on me, but That big deep crankbait, I do it differently. I know you're not supposed to do this. I actually throw that big crankbait on a 7/8 heavy, the same rod I throw a big swim bait on. With that big C25 crankbait, I throw it on the big stick and I horse them to the boat. I put my rod down in the water and I winch them and boat flip them. And I find that I don't lose very many fish. As long as I can keep them from jumping a bunch, I don't lose very many fish. I do that because that big bait has such big treble hooks on it, and there's so much leverage with that. I don't want to give them a chance to jump or do their thing. Ronnie does it a completely different way. Ronnie's got a lot more time deep cranking than I do over the years, but Ronnie throws it on a really limber composite, glass composite rod. It's got a lot of bend to it. I go the opposite. I go with a big stick. It makes it easier on me to handle it. I can feel the bottom really well with it, and when I get a bite, I just pull into them and winch them, and boat flip them. That's the Divine series. This is a Divine series that I'm throwing that big crankbait on. It's a big Divine series 7/8 heavy. How long for a Carolina rig leader this time of year? Man, my Carolina rig leader out deep always stays the same, and it's about, I guess, about 3 foot. 3 to 4 foot, maybe about around 3 foot. I'm not a real precise guy on a Carolina rig leader. Now, I will say this. If I notice fish is spinning a little more off the bottom, then I will increase the length of my Carolina rig leader, and I'll kind of snap my Carolina rig as I'm dragging it to get that bait to kind of jump off the bottom. W.M. Holland says, back when the MLF was at Fork in March, there was a rumor going around that an MLF pro caught a 16-pounder in practice. Is there any truth to that giant being caught? No, there's no truth to that. It was total, just rumor. That's all it was. How long is the shad spawn going to be this weekend? The shad spawn's been lasting. Some mornings you can get it the last couple hours. Usually it's the first hour. It's from about 6:30 to 7 when it starts, and 7:30 to 8 when it kind of fades, and by 8:30 it's totally gone. Every once in a while it'll last till 9 o'clock. How's the early frog bite? I don't really know because I've been chasing shad spawn every morning. I haven't been going around throwing a frog early in the morning. Iowa boys in the house, we appreciate you. How much are these cold night temps going to affect the water temp come Saturday? Not enough. I mean, it's not going to get that cold, guys. It's not going to be super cold from what I saw. Maybe I read the forecast wrong. I know we've got, like, the highs are in the upper 60s on Saturday. That water temp is in the mid-70s right now. You can find it anywhere from down to around the lower 70s, 71, 72, 73, up to 75, 76. 60-degree air temps aren't going to drop that, especially for one day, aren't going to drop that water temp very much. And that water temp will do more dropping on Saturday than it will. It'll be cold as Sunday, so the water temp tomorrow is really not going to drop going into Saturday. Saturday will be when the water temp starts dropping, but it's not going to be a huge drastic increase. And by the way, water temp dropping from 75 or 76 to, even if it dropped down to 70 degrees, that's go time, boys. Like, that's not going to affect those fish in a negative way. Now, if it dropped from 75 down to like 63, we're talking a whole different ball game. But the water temp dropping 270 is not a necessarily bad thing in and of itself. Hands down, #1 bait, shad spawn if you only have one. Little swim baits. Little swim baits with an underspin. I can throw them through anything. I can throw them in any kind of cover that I want to throw them. They're very efficient. They're very easy to fish. They're easy to hook up on. And they work. I mean, they look a lot like a shad. They work. Do east winds change your approach other than what banks to fish? Nah. Nope. Just, I mean, every day right now, it's when you get to the lake, you see what direction the wind's blowing, how hard it's blowing, and you kind of make your decisions on where to start based on that. I have, other than Every once in a while, when I've really been on a good shad spawn bite on one point, okay, I'm going there no matter what the next morning just to make sure. For the most part, when I show up to the lake, I really don't know where I'm going right off the bat to my first spot. I'm looking at the wind and kind of making that decision as I go. Sometimes as I'm driving down the lake, we'll be driving and I'll go, oh, wait a minute, and turn and go fish somewhere. So, no, it's no preconceived notions on where to start right now. That shad spawn deal can pop up almost anywhere at times. So, really looking for birds and looking for wind. You know, wind first and birds second. And by birds, I mean blue herons. Are the frogs available for 6 cents? Not yet. I've heard June. I've heard they'll be available in June. As soon as they're available, I promise you'll know about it. What's the secret to bank fishing Lake Fork? I mean, I'm a bad guy to ask that. I've just never done it. But I would think that bridge aprons would be the secret, because all those bridge aprons create, they just always hold fish. They also create funnel points in the gaps in those bridges where those fish go through. So all those bridge aprons, especially the ones in the creek arms with the narrower gaps, if I was going bank fishing, that's what I tell everybody asks me about bank fishing, is I would go to the bridge aprons in the creek arms on Lake Fork, be it Birch Creek, Williams Creek, Mustang, Little Mustang, all those bridges, Running Creek, Coffee Creek, all those bridges in the creek arms, that's where I would be headed. W.M. Holland asks, wonder if Heath Taylor at Smash Tech has any new baits he's working on that haven't been released to the market yet. Love his stuff. Yeah, I mean, I love his stuff too. Speaking of, I didn't mention the hollow belly tonight because I was talking about the Devon swim bait, but the little hollow belly is, I mean, arguably my best shad spawn bait ever. I mean, I've probably caught as many shad spawn fish on a little hollow belly as I have anything else. I don't know of any new ones, but he's always got something in that shop over there that's not released to the public. In fact, the hollow belly is one that wasn't supposed to get released to the public. I kind of forced his hand on that deal. And Big Perm was another one, that big straight tail worm that we throw the Magnum crawler. That was another one that I kind of forced his hand on that wasn't going to get released. So I may just need to take a trip over there for you guys and see if there's something else we can bring to market. Youngest daughter caught a 10-pound bass out of Hallbrook Sunday using a weightless Senko. Man, that is unbelievable. That's incredible. Wow. That's awesome, man. That's so cool. That's the best. I know that you're a bass man, but are they catching nice crappie on Fork right now? Yeah, the crappie guys are hammering down. The crappie fishing's been real good from what I've heard and what I understand. All the crappie guys are really, really smacking them. Who's the best Smash Tech dealer on Fork? Lake Fork Marina has the best selection of Smash Tech products, for sure. I want to catch a few huge fish right now. What am I throwing and where? Super long main leg points, that big C25 crankbait. This one right here. This one will be the one that I would throw. But whatever color you prefer, but the Cloud 9 C25 series from 6 cents. Super long main lake points. Grab some fish out there when you find them big arcs. Just go to grinding. Go to digging that crankbait, banging it around on the bottom. Why don't you throw a quake during shad spawn? Rayburn fish love them during shad spawn. To be honest with you, the reason I don't throw that is because most of the stuff we fish has a lot of timber. And as you know, a lipless crankbait is not great around timber as far as being efficient. Shad spawn is so fast and furious, and you can catch them on so many different baits. My main concern with the shad spawn is getting a bait that looks like a shad, in and out of there efficiently where I can fish fast. That's my biggest concern when I'm fishing a shad spawn. What is my frog rod setup? 7.6 heavy Lux series, 50-pound braid, and a high-speed lose reel. What are good baits for July? I'm going to be there for my birthday in July. July is going to be a lot of offshore stuff. So we're starting at that time of year where a lot of these baits are, like that deep crankbait is going to be a factor throughout the whole summer, of course. Big flutter spoons will be a factor in July. That big perm worm, that big straight tail worm, the Magnum crawler on a big shaky head, that big 6-inch shaky head. I really like the big shaky head 6-inch makes because it's got that super big 7/0. I mean, it's got the baddest hook of any shaky head I've ever seen as far as a big beefy hook. Really like that shaky head with that long straight tail worm. That time of year, wobble heads, biffle heads, whatever you want to call them. 6-inch makes a great wobble head as well. Those are a factor with little creature baits on them, like the stroke across, something like that. So, I mean, mostly deep fishing stuff. That's a lot of, I mean, that's several baits right there. That's 3 or 4 baits, I guess, and a Carolina rig, of course, too. Just, I mean, your prototypical offshore structure fishing stuff is what you're going to want in July. When you get to July, there is a shallow bite that exists, but it's few and far between, kind of hard to find unless you really know what you're looking for. But that offshore structure is a deal, especially the sharper, deeper drop-off type structures, humps and pond dams and stuff like that. What's my gear ratio on deep crankbaits? Man, I almost get embarrassed talking about the way I fish a deep crankbait because I do it wrong. I actually throw that on a super high-speed reel. I throw it on an 8-to-1 Lose Super Duty LFS G. It's an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. My deal is I can get that bait down fast, and then when I get down there, I can just crawl it. You know, as far as I can turn my handle real slow and really feel everything with the crankbait, but yet my line's coming in fast and my bait's moving fast and bouncing off cover hard and all that. So it allows me to feel like I'm slowing down even though my bait's going fast, and makes it easier for me to get the bait down there as far as just a few cranks and my bait's down. So I do it the complete opposite of what everybody tells you. Go to 5-to-1 ratio reel, go to a limber rod with a lot of tip. I do it on a super heavy rod, super fast reel, and I just force myself to slow down when I get the bait down there. And really, I'm almost just really crawling it, but yet my bait's going boom, 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 and going real fast and getting those big reactions. Mark Chambers, I don't know if you're having some of that brown water tonight, but I'm having a hard time reading some of your questions, brother. Billy, what the competition that CB makes custom chatterbaits near you? I'm not real sure what you just asked me, but I'm sorry, man. You're going to have to redo that one. It didn't look too wrong on Instagram. Yeah, it's kind of the beautiful thing about fishing is the way you're talking about my setup for deep crankbaits. The great thing about fishing is I get up here and tell you guys how I do it, and Ronnie tells you how he does it, and we get other guys to come on and tell you, okay, this is what works for me. Man, that's my favorite part about fishing is you can go figure out your own deal, and there's always every fisherman that fishes, especially guys that fish full time. We all have our little things we do a little bit different that we feel like in our head, whether it's in our head or not, because the deal with fishing is once it's in your head, it's in your head. But in our own minds, it gives us confidence and we feel like that's a better way to do it. And so we do things differently sometimes. Maybe it's using a different bait, maybe it's using a different rod and reel setup, whatever it is. For me, it just makes it easier and more efficient. Now, Ronnie would tell you I'm going to lose more fish. I just haven't found that to be the case of losing a lot of fish on a deep crankbait. But I reel them in differently. I mean, I really horse a deep crankbait fish to the boat. I really work really hard to stick my rod way down in the water and reel it as fast as I can and not let them throw the bait. and having that high-speed reel helps me keep that line tight, keep that rod bent, even when it's under the water, picking up a lot of slack at a time. And I just horse them in and kind of boat flip them. And if I got a net guy there that's got a net handy, yeah, we'll use that. But most of the time we just boat flip them. Especially on that 7/8 heavy, you can boat flip 10 pounders on that thing. Cody Mays in the house. What's up, big dog? How heavy on the Carolina rig? I almost always use a 1 ounce weight. Every once in a while 3/4, and that's just because I grabbed one on accident. But usually it's a 1 ounce weight on a Carolina rig. What size line on the crankbait? At Lake Fork, I never go anything less than 20-pound line, unless I'm throwing smaller, like shallower diving crankbaits. My deep diving crankbaits, I go 20-pound line. The way I fish them, I'm banging them into heavy cover. I'm banging them into hard spots on the bottom, road beds, stuff like that, bridge aprons, underwater bridges. I'm banging that crankbait into a lot of stuff. I need big, tough line. And also the way that I horse fish to the boat and boat flip them, I need big line. So I always use 20-pound fluorocarbon on my deep cranks. Do you fish deep cranks when you see fish on bottom usually, or when they are suspended a little bit? The answer to that's actually both. So I like it when they're on bottom because a deep crankbait, I'm hitting bottom with it. It gets down there and gets in their face. Also, even if they're suspended a little bit, I don't mind throwing a deep crankbait that dives underneath them and hits the bottom. I feel like that crankbait has such an action, especially when it gets down there and starts banging around and bouncing off cover. It kind of sucks them down to it. And a lot of times taking those fish that are suspended a little bit and sucking them down can kind of activate them and get them more in a hunting, feeding mode. And then when that thing bounces off something all crazy and erratic, they can't help but lash out at it. So, if they're suspended, 5, 6 feet, 8 feet off the bottom, if they're suspended real high off the bottom, I'm not going to throw a deep crankbait at them. I don't throw deep crankbaits through suspending fish trying to target fish at that depth. I don't think that's the right tool. I think an Alabama rig is much better. I think a flutter spoon is much better. I think counting down a super fluke is much better. I think there's a lot of different ways to catch a suspending fish, hair jigs, that work way better than winding a deep crankbait through them. I don't think that's really that effective of a technique. I know there's been some big fish caught doing that over the years, but it's once in a while. It's not something you can go out and day-to-day catch suspended fish on. So if I start seeing fish suspended 8, 9, 10 feet off the bottom, I'm looking to other baits besides a crankbait. Because I got to catch fish every day. I mean, that's my job. Cody Mays says all he can catch is slot fish in his tournaments. How do you catch unders? I would say 1-800-DIAL Eric Wright. That guy's probably the greatest unders catcher in the history of Lake Fork. He would know much better than I would. I will tell you that the shad spawn deal is a great way to catch unders. If you find that threadfin shad spawn deal, yeah, you'll catch some 4 and 5 pounders, but man, you'll catch some really good 2 pounders in there as well. Every morning when I find a good shad spawn bite, we catch a lot of good unders in that deal. So right now, to me, if you can't find, you kind of need to find a really good shad spawn bite to do well in a tournament right now. That would be my key anyway. Seminar tomorrow night, yes. The live free seminars are back at Lake Fork Marina. We're going to set up outside under the pavilion, plenty of room for everybody to have distance from each other if you so choose. But we are going to me and Ronnie Kelly are going to be doing a seminar tomorrow night at Lake Fork Marina at 6 p.m. If you're in the area, please do come join us. We'd love to see you. It's been a long time since we did that. So, man, I hope all this madness it seems like it's starting to fade a little bit. We're all coming to our senses a little bit, getting our lives back in order. And we're going to go ahead and crank the seminars back up and hopefully don't have to look back again on that deal, man. We're really happy to get those going again. Alrighty, boys and girls, man, y'all did great tonight. Big audience tonight. We had a lot of folks in here tonight. I really appreciate you guys joining us, as always, on Thursday night for Top 5 Baits. I hope something we talked about tonight can help some of y'all catch a couple more and bigger fish this weekend. A lot of different ways to do it. Get out there and, really my best advice to you would be go fish your strengths. However you like to fish, go fish that way really hard because there's so many different ways to catch fish right now on all these lakes. Todd Udy's asking the seminar will be live. Seminar won't be live on YouTube. The seminar will be live in person. You can come in person again. We're actually doing the seminars at Lake Fort Marina, not live streaming them from the garage like we have been doing. Anyways, yeah, go fish your confidence and fish it hard, and you should be able to round up some fish right now because it's a really good time of year to go fishing. And hey, maybe there's a technique you want to get better at. Maybe if you want to get better at deep cranking, right now is a great time to go put a deep crankbait in your hands and don't touch nothing else. Commit to it and grind on it. There are fish that'll bite it. Just go get after it. A lot of different ways to catch them. So thank you guys so much for joining us as always. Hey, fresh updates on the Fish Life app just happened this week or last weekend. So if you've been thinking about subscribing to the Fish Life app, or you're coming from out of town to one of these lakes, or whatever it is, you've been considering the Fish Life app, go check it out at www.fishlife.net and get subscribed. We just put fresh updates out on that. Other than that, man, appreciate you guys once again. We'll see you next time right here on your